The bottom one you did. Okay. 220. Okay. Yeah. We'll do 220, bottom paragraph, because I have something to add. That's what I'm going to say. He definitely didn't say it. Okay? How do I know he didn't say it? Because I know he never learned certain things I learned. That's why I know he didn't say it. Okay. V'achakein ayin b'dvorim asher ben kim hagufos yishorim al inyonim ugvulam areis kitzam. As you see, what Hashem provided that a human being can maintain his physicality and to function in their context, ugvulam areis till the very end. That people are able to maintain themselves physically. Timtsoim b'ravu mat, meaning what's the utmost necessity, it's abundant. What's something which is not the ultimate necessity, it's to a lesser degree. For instance, water is abundant. A person can't live without water. Certain staples of life, it's abundant. Things which are less crucial for a person's survival or maintaining his function, it's more scarce. Whenever the necessity is greater, it's more available. I'll give you an example. You find that, what was the curse of the snake? The curse of the snake was that its fodder should be earth. Why? So Rashi says, because wherever the snake finds itself, it doesn't have to be limited to its own habitat. Because wherever you are, there's earth, and that's the fodder of a snake. Other animals, creatures, they have to be in their habitat. If they're not in their own habitat, what they're able to survive on is not there, they'll die. So you find other creatures have to be found in specific locations. Snakes are able to survive anywhere. That's interesting. The snake and any other creature, any other species. That's a question. Now, what you're asking is a question, right? So it's a bracha. Here he's cursing the snake that wherever dirt should be your fodder, so it's a bracha. It's able to survive. So we mentioned the Gemara says remember what I said earlier. The Gemara in Avodah Zarah says that Hashem, part of God's day, every day, he preoccupies himself with providing for every species, from the largest to the smallest. God despises the snake to such a degree, he doesn't want to preoccupy himself to provide for its sustenance. Therefore, the greatest curse is that God doesn't even want to think about your existence. So that's a total detachment. That's why that's the ultimate curse. That's the way they explain it. What? Total, on the most extreme level. So whatever you're able to maintain yourself without it, its existence is more difficult to come upon. And its availability is to a lesser degree. He says, what's an example? Air we breathe. Air we breathe is in abundance. Unlimited. Because you're not able to survive without oxygen. You can't survive for a moment unless you have oxygen. Therefore, God made it available, unlimited, on unlimited level in the world. It's available to every human being. Wherever he may be, find himself in existence, there's oxygen. Which is continuous. Since the necessity of water is next most important after oxygen. But you're able to survive without water to a greater degree than you survive without oxygen. Oxygen is an impossibility. Okay. Water is not wherever sometimes you have to go to the water. Water is located in certain locations. You're able to transport water. Oxygen, wherever you find yourself, there's oxygen to breathe. So the water is available. It's not denied, But it's in terms of its availability, in terms of location, it's not the same as oxygen. Shenim b'chol mokum ka'avir, or mevinosum b'dom l'k'tzas m'neod, some people you have to pay for water. Ma she'en kein ba'avir, ve'mezumonim l'k'tzas ha'chaim yosem miktzosam, va'avir shove b'tziuso v'hasagos l'chulam tomen alim yinechot. Oxygen is available to every living creature equally, because every creature has to have some degree of oxygen. What about the fish, Rabbi? Rabbi, what about the fish? No, but it breathes. A fish breathes, right? If a fish finds itself in anything which is not water, in the water, it's able to process it to have some degree. And we always speak about, the famous Siforno. What was the Makav Dam? Moshe says, and the fish in the Nile will die. It will turn to blood and they will die. It seems to be superfluous. If the Nile is blood, of course they're going to die. So the Siforno explains, what is sorcery? What is kishuv? Kishuv, in terms of its essence, only mimics something else. But in terms of its chemical makeup, the only one who could change the essence of something's makeup is only Hashem himself. Sorcery, it appears, it'll have the texture of blood, it'll have the density of blood, it'll have the smell of blood, the color, everything. It'll mimic it in every aspect, but what's its essence? Its essence is it's H2O. Therefore, you have to add, it's going to turn to blood. Badoga should be, or tomus, the fish are going to die. It's going to be a total conversion from water to blood. That's what you have to say that. No, but I'm just saying, because fish can't live in blood. But something which seems to be blood, but is not blood, they can live on that, in that, because it's water. It has all the properties of water, in terms of its chemical makeup. Every creature has to have some degree of sustenance. You're able to come upon, to be without food for a longer period of time, and to come upon it, to be delayed more than what? Than air and water. Saragossa Yosakoshe. The ever coming upon it is more difficult. Therefore, its essence is more precious than water. Oxygen and what? And water. Elshu. Im kol zed nipsa harbe. Nevertheless, it's abundant. Food, there's some degree of sustenance. Beta nimna klab niodam. Food is available at some level. Okay. So you have to. Okay. They're both not available. Both not available. Desert, there's no food, there's no water. So you could so you make sense. What you're traveling with, there's nothing new. We're talking about the location itself. There's a Sodu Sheshavot basis in on the Zohar. We just had in last week's reading, this week's parsha, Eikev. Lo alechem b'vad yichri odam. Bread alone man does not live. Kalpi motzi pi Hashem yichri odam. Man lives on God's word. That's what we learned from the month, right? On bread alone man does not live, but on the word of God, yichri odam, man lives. So there's a shalom that Shalos writes that in every food item, the two aspects. There's a physicality to food and there's a spiritual component to food. A human being is a composite of physical and spiritual. So just as the physicality of the human being has to be sustained, identically the spiritual, the neshama, has to be sustained. When we eat food, there is, he refers to as the tzotze kedusha, the sparks of holiness in every food item. So when you eat the bread or whatever it is, it's not only lo alechem levado yichiyodam. It's not only the physicality of the bread that man lives, but there's a certain spiritual component which is Dvar Hashem yichiyodam, and that sustains the neshama. Because how does something physical, how does it sustain something which is spiritual? So therefore, in every food item, you have both components one addressing the physical, one addressing the spiritual. That's the Shalom. But there's a Yisrael Shesh Avoda writes, based on the Zohar, he says, food items, some are tastier, some are less tasty. He says, what is, and there's a hierarchy of, let's say, meat. Among food items, meat is the tastiest. Then you have vegetables. Then you have more bland things. He says, the intensity of taste is based on the concentration of nitzotzi kedusha that are found in the food. The animal, being the highest level of species, closest thing to the human being, has the greatest concentration of these spiritual sparks. And what is the objective of a human being? To extract the spirituality from the physicality to be absorbed in one's neshama. So he explains, this is all based on the Zohar, that if a person eats l'shem shamayim, eats for the sake of him to maintain himself, to be able to function, to do mitzvahs, then when you eat that food, it's not an animalistic act, but rather it's an extraction process. So then the sparks of kedusha are extracted from the physical food, absorbed in the neshama, and what leaves the body? It's the waste. It's the physicality leaves the body. But the spiritual component, the food, that remains, that becomes absorbed into one's neshama. But what about if a person eats without this intent, just eat, it's a physical act, and then, he says, then the concentration of kedusha leaves the body together with the waste. And it's recycled. And it's a recycling process continuously, and that's the way it goes. So he says, therefore, the higher level of the greater the concentration, the more intense is the taste, or the tastier it is. The less, and that's the way it is. So Hashem provides it all. That was told. You know what it is? The slav, first of all, the Gemara said the slav wasn't so tasty. The Gemara says in Yuma, the slav, the level of concentration of fat, it was such a fatty bird, it was nearly not edible. It says that the Gemara says in Yuma that if you put on a piece of bread, it would be the bread would be so saturated, it was inedible. It's like the Rambam says in Hilchos Tshuva, at the time of the Churban Abayis, the Navi says that people, you're calling light darkness and darkness light. It's a total perversion. Like the Rambam says, when people are physically ill, sweet is bitter and bitter is sweet. That's what he says, the same thing. He says people crave earth and carbon, it's inedible, but that's an indication of the body is actually is failing. There's a physical deficiency. So he says, we have before he says people, they despise Torah and Yiddishkeit. That's a spiritual ailment. The people are spiritual ailing. That's the reason why they cannot tolerate anything that has to do with Kedusha. Understand? That the Jews were craving meat in the desert, despite that everything, was an indication that was a spiritual flaw in them. Here you have everything. What are you craving that? I mean, you want to go back to be the animal. If you're this highest spiritual being, you should be thriving here. It was always tasty. It was always tasty. But it's like the person craves certain things, even though the craving is not necessarily craving is usually an indication of what's going on within the person. That you crave, that tells me where you're at. To be continued. Ephraim. Thank you. No, that's sometimes people crave. It's an indication of a health issue when people crave for certain things. It's a health issue. Yeah.